Hi, my name is Rana, and I am a teacher of English. One of the main areas that I teach in is in the idea of speech, in pronunciation and in understanding how the accent works. Now, there are many kinds of accents. I'm just talking about a clear accent which is easily understandable. A lot of my students often approach me to talk about how they can develop their fluent or how they can develop fluency in their pronunciation, how they can develop some kind of speech structure which allows them to sound more neutral when they're communicating with native speakers. The whole idea of accent can be really complicated sometimes, and it becomes difficult for people who come from an ESL background to understand some of the complex things that are involved. But I would suggest that it becomes much more easier if we can just break this down into 2 or 3 stages which are easily understandable and which easily can be put into our own regular practice. And I think the first thing that we need to understand is that English is a language of stress. I don't mean stress in terms of worry, I mean in terms of making things louder, more longer. So when we use the word computer, it's the middle syllable, computer, and the pew part is made longer. Once we begin to understand that these stressed syllables are the ones that are really heard, and then honestly, once you look at native speakers speak, it doesn't really matter if any other part of their word is incorrect, as long as that one stressed syllable is made louder and longer and nice and clear, everybody can understand what the word means. So English is a language of stress, and it is the way that native speakers stress particular parts of the word that makes them identifiable. It gives us that enunciation, it gives us that pronunciation, it gives us that accent. First thing we need to remember is that it's a stressed language. So we use a lot of stress. Wherever a word is used which has more than one syllable, then one of those syllables must be stressed, and it must be only one, and it has to be one every single time. A second thing is that we use particular kind of words in our phrases. These collocations that we call them are readily identifiable words. For example, you can catch a taxi. You know, when we have a problem inside our bodies, if we have a cold, we catch a cold. We cannot say we receive a cold or we obtain a cold. Even though that sounds more accurate, these collocations are special words that go together. If we don't use the correct collocations, the whole meaning of the phrase is lost. And this is troublesome because native speakers use some really strange words that are not readily identifiable. We have to identify some of the words. So we use collocations, and collocations are groups of words which native speakers use to talk about some of the most common things, whatever it is that they talk about. Once we begin to understand the idea of collocations, we begin to see that you can only have a Merry Christmas. We don't say a gleeful Christmas. You can have a happy birthday. Happy goes with birthday. Even though happy is joyous, we never say have a joyous birthday. It just incorrect collocations. And once we begin to use incorrect collocations, the whole of the English begins to sound a little bit strange, and it's not understandable. Finally, we need to look at the way that we use adjectives, like I mentioned. English people, native speakers, American people, Australians, etc., they will use particular kind of adjectives with particular kinds of words. And it's the ability to recognize and identify with those words that gives us a certain kind of pronunciation. Also, there are many other small important things that we need to understand about accent. The way that rhythm works, how we just stress only the important syllables. And also, finally, the way that we use tone as well, as long as we are connecting the words together. When we speak a phrase, most native speakers will just say everything as if it was just one word, because we don't leave any spaces like we do when we write. So all the words are linked together, the whole sentence just becomes one word, we stress the word, we put the tone in there to show how genuine we are, and that is really it. Once we begin to connect all of these ideas together, which we will be looking at over the coming modules, you'll see that developing a neutral, a clear, understandable pronunciation is not really that difficult. That's